What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the channel. Today, I'm going to be showing off that Piett yellow deck that people have been asking about that went up against the Poe ECl deck in my last video. In this video, we are going to show it in a match, in a game against the Poe deck, show how strong it can be. But there are also things in this deck that I think that Piett can be like a huge threat in the next set. Being able to cheat out capital ships is no joke. Capital ships are hard to deal with as it is, but now if you're getting it out a turn earlier, it can be really scary to deal with, right? So let's go ahead, hop in, talk about Admiral Piett, its ability, and everything like that. If you are new here and you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that sub button down below. Support is always appreciated. And we do have some fun things coming out in the future as well. That being said, let's go ahead and talk about Piett, right? We have Piett for an action, play a capital ship unit card from your hand, obviously. And then it costs one less. And being able to, again, like I said before, being able to cheat out those capital ships that are already hard to deal with a turn earlier, or even 2 turns earlier, because when you flip them, they cost 2 less, it can be a really big problem. Plus, when you add in things like triple dark raid and sneak attack, things can go really off the rails for your opponent if you can get things off the way that you want them to, right? Just playing a 30 HP base, we want to make sure we can live as long as possible, because you are going to want to ramp to be able to play these ships out even earlier, right? Let's go ahead and talk about the ground units. We play a decent amount of ground units. We're rocking 16 right now. We have Bazine. Bazine is really good because you get to look at your opponent's hand, discard a card from it. They do get to draw, so they can potentially draw that card right back, but still be able to kind of deal with something you don't want to deal with in that moment, right? You can also play it for 4 out of Smuggle, so it gives you another option to put the Bazine down and still have the ability to use her ability later on in the game. Things you kind of want to look out for, I do think that Han, either green, yellow, it doesn't really matter. Being able to cheat out the Falcon on turn 1 could be a problem for this deck, because they can go ahead and smack into your Corona potentially, take it out on the following turn, and then they get ramp. That's not what you want against Han, because yes, Han can go ahead and do his own thing and ramp himself, but also if you're giving him a free ramp card with your Corona, that's a problem, right? Looking in, getting rid of cards like the Falcon, Cunning, stuff like that, it's just really good against that matchup. But they can always end up drawing it, but just still, that's kind of what you want to use it for. Viper Pro Droid, you get to look at your opponent's hand, so you can kind of play around with what they have, right? But it's also a 3/2 on the ground for 2. You can go ahead and use it to, if they are playing on the ground, kind of control the ground early and not take damage if you have the initiative and stuff like that. We have Wingman Vector 2. This allows you to play, when it's played as an upgrade, you can go ahead and create a TIE Fighter token. That's going to allow you to, make more of a space threat, and allowing you to also kind of make a combo in with Vector 3, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We have Phase 3 Dark Trooper, one of the better 3-drop Sentinels. If it does survive a hit, it does get an experience token, so it's pretty good. Super Laser Tech, we need it for the ramp. We want to ramp as much as possible and play big ships in this deck, and this guy's going to help us do that. We have, again, Victor 3. Wingman Victor 3 allows you to give an upgrade to something. When it's played as a pilot, it gives an upgrade to another unit. Now, Piett, you are able to go ahead and play out the Corona on turn 1, right? If you play the Corona on turn 1 and you have Victor 2, you go ahead and play that on the Corona. It gets +1/+1, so essentially it is a 4/6 immediately, and you get to create a TIE Fighter token, allowing you to then go ahead and play Victor 3 on that TIE Fighter token, giving your Corona another EXP token. So then you are swinging in for 5, and you have 7 HP, making it harder for your opponent to deal, especially on turn 2, allowing you to either control space a little bit or just get in damage on your opponent's base, making it so they have to deal with it. Yes, and when they do deal with it, they do get to ramp, but you are already doing that damage into base. Plus, you are having a 2/2 token, just being able to smack things for space. Victor 2 is a 2-drop 3/2 on the ground if you have to use it on turn 1. And then Victor 3 is a 4/3 3-drop on the ground, which isn't really ideal, but there are options if you do have to fall into that lane if you just have a really bad hand, right? But those are our ground units. Nothing too crazy there. Let's go ahead and hop into the space units, because this is where the fun begins, right? We have our Starfighter. The Starfighter is a Sentinel, a 3/2 Sentinel, so it cracks back into turn 1 plays really well, but it only has 2 HP, so it is probably also going to be dying on the crackback. Lurking TIE Phantom, always scary. It gets around your opponent's removal. It gets around control decks, which is really nice. Also swings in for 4 because it has raid 2. So again, a big threat in space. Okay. If you want to go ahead and run some TIE Advance in this deck, you definitely could, if you want to go with a little bit more speed, maybe throw those into the sideboard, because we don't have a sideboard at the moment. We're just kind of playing around with it. This is kind of like the shell of what we're starting with, and we're going to keep on playtesting and kind of go from there, right? We have the Outlaw Corona, which we already talked about, but being able to play it on turn 1 because Piett's ability is really good. A 3-drop 3/5 with this bounty is really bad, and like it's just not great because your opponent can potentially get rid of it fairly easily with some pump events and stuff like that and get ramp on their side. But a 3/5 on turn 1 in space is really strong, also allowing you to, again, especially against Rebel aggro decks, this card is really strong in taking out a lot of their Rebel cards, right? You have the Gladiator Star Destroyer. This could potentially go, but it is really nice to be able to potentially stop a threat in space, because I do think that there's going to be a lot of decks with heavy space threats, obviously, in this set. You see a lot of new space units coming out. This allowing you on play, just make it a Sentinel, or you can make something on the ground a Sentinel. You get to give anything Sentinel for the phase, but you can play it for 5. And I think a 5/6 Sentinel in space for the cost of 5 is actually really solid, right? It stops your opponents in their track. They have to think twice about swinging multiple ships into it, most likely, at that point. And then, again, if it does live, you're then swinging next turn, the following turn after that, in for 5 damage. We have the TIE Carrier. The TIE Carrier on attack creates a TIE Fighter token. Again, being able to play it for 5, it's a 5/7. It's not too bad, but again, Triple Dark Raid getting it out even earlier, Sneak Attack getting it out earlier. It could be solid, but again, it's one of those cards that we're just testing with it right now because it is a new card, right? Resupply Carrier, this is a fantastic card, especially in Piett. You can play for 5. You can get it your ramp up. If you go ahead and you play out Piett, you can go ahead and play this for 4 and still play down. Maybe you can put a pilot on it or something, right? So it's pretty good. And when played, you can put the top card of your deck in as a resource. So it's just more ramp with a body. So that's always a good thing. We have the Assault Cruiser here with Triple Dark Raid, Sneak Attack, being able to put this in to play and then swing in, get in a resource from your opponent, right? If you defeat a non-leader unit, you get to go ahead and make a resource. That is extremely strong, especially in this deck. And it can just really do some fun things, especially with Piett's ability being able to play it for 6 or for 7. Triple Dark Raid playing it for less. It's just, again, more ramp to get into your really big stuff, which is coming up next, right? You have your Relentless. It's an 8/8 for 9. We know what it does. It's really good against that control matchup. Next, we have the Devastator. The Devastator could be a problem with this deck. Again, like being able to play it for 8, sometimes you're not going to want to play Piett right away. You're going to want to hold on to Piett to make sure you can go ahead and play these bombs for less, right? You can save your Piett for your 8 resource turn to make sure you play this for 8, right? Unless your opponent has that immediate answer for Piett, then they're going to go ahead and get, hit down with a Devastator, which is able to, when played, you deal damage to a unit equal to the number of resources you control. If you are playing for 8, 8 damage is still really big damage into a unit, and it is going to be taking out a lot of units. Plus, it's a Sentinel. Plus, it has Overwhelm. It's just a big threat on the board, especially if you can play it for cheap with Piett. And then the Executor. This card is just a lot of fun in this deck with Triple Dark Raid, but especially with Sneak Attack. If you have Piett on the board, Sneak Attack plus Piett allows you to play this for 8. With that being said, when played, create 3 TIE Fighter tokens. Boom. Right there, 3 tokens. Then you get to go ahead and attack with it, because if it's Sneak Attack, it comes in ready. So you attack. You're attacking in for 12. It has Overwhelm. So you can go ahead and take out one of their units, deal excess damage to the base, or just swing 12 into their base. That is a huge swing on the 8 resource turn, right? Boom. Create another 3 tokens, right? So far you created 6 tokens that turn. And then on the next regroup phase, it does get defeated because of Sneak Attack. You created another 3 TIE Fighter tokens. So you've created 9 TIE Fighter tokens on that 8 resource turn. You got to deal 12 damage in or take out a unit and deal excess damage into the base. And then you still have 9 damage on the board on the following turn. So it's just really, really solid value with Sneak Attack. I think it's a lot of fun. Even with Triple Dark Raid, it's really solid. It does go back to your hand. You can play it again next turn. Just really good card. A lot of fun. You could potentially argue that this should probably be a 2 of. You probably want to see it more often. So again, we're just kind of playing around with what we have right now. Sneak Attack, like we already said, really good card. Resupply for that ramp, because we do want to try to get to your high stuff before your opponent does. Triple Dark Raid, again, being able to cheat out your vehicles early, especially with Piett. and a lot of the cards in this deck being capital ships. Overall Mirage, another card used to kind of control the board and get a little bit of a pump to potentially take out your opponent's stuff or just swing into base for a little extra damage. And then we have the Turbo Laser Salvo, which allows you to deal damage, choose an arena. A friendly space unit deals damage equal to its power to each unit in that arena. And there are a lot of options in this deck, right? You can go ahead, even the Tie Carrier. Early game, because again, you can get this out pretty early. Like, you are going to have to wait till the 7 resource turn. So, like, if you are using it for the Assault Cruiser, dealing 7 across the board, Relentless, dealing 8 across the board, 10 across with Devastator, 12 across with the Executor, right? So, like, late game, if your opponent is heavy in one zone, this is just a really good card to kind of make sure that you're not threatened by the output of their damage, and you can still go ahead and threaten them with the output of your damage. It's just a really fun card to get it like when it goes off, it's really good. And with the ability to play Overall Mirage a couple turns earlier to clear out some stuff to protect yourself, and then just pull this out with one of your big capital shifts is always just a fun little combo, right? But this is kind of what you're looking at when it comes to Piett. You kind of want to ramp, get your big stuff, cheat him out with either Sneak Attack, Piett, or Triple Dark Raid, get in that damage, and just use the on-play abilities of some of these cards to allow you to get even more value on multiple turns. So we're going to go hop into a game against Poe. You're going to see sometimes how oppressive Piett can be against certain decks, especially space-heavy decks, right? So let's go ahead, let's bring up that Poe matchup, and I'll see you guys over there. All right, we're here with the game against Poe. You're gonna just see the Piett has initiative, and then you're gonna see just how strong it can really be against a deck like Poe, who does want to be a little more focused in space, right? So you see, it's not a good start for my opponent. You see Victor 2 come out, and then you have the Green Squadron A-Wing. So as a Poe player here, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't have to worry about the Corona coming in, smacking into my Green Squadron A-Wing. And so, you know, again, feeling pretty okay here. I don't have the ability to play Poe and then something else. If I put down that that did look like a Phoenix Squadron A-Wing, but I opted to just go ahead and guarantee that I can get into 3 damage and then get in more of a threat on the ground, right? So I go ahead and I swing in for 3. He also swings in for 3. And then I go ahead and I play the Millennium Falcon, because if I'm able to jump from the Green Squadron A-Wing at the start of next turn into the Falcon, I'm dealing out a ton of damage there, and he doesn't have that space threat right now. If he does have the Gladiator Star Destroyer, it's a little bit rough. I know he plays a 2-of. If he has it, he has it. That's on me. But, you know, we'll see what happens from here. And again, he still has the Victor 2 on the ground. He's able to deal 3 repeatedly, and he's able to bring out Piett this turn. And he opts to go in straight with Piett right away. So that does scare me a little bit, because he's able to cheat out something for 2 less, and I cannot go ahead and use Piett. I cannot use Poe to stop Piett this turn, because he did ramp, and that's something that is a little bit scary. If he ends up hitting the Gladiator Star Destroyer here, he's able to play it, but also Piett making his capital ships off of TDR cost 7 less is actually kind of scary, right? So we're going to see what ship he elects to choose here, and he goes into the cruiser, and that's a problem, because with that, he's able to play it for, again, 7 less. He has to pay that 1. He takes out that. He's able to then play it as a resource. I lose Poe, and now it's sad times, right? Now I have to find a way to kind of try to maintain a board state here, and you know, I could go ahead and swing in and kill his cruiser, which, you know, in hindsight, probably should have been the play. But I think that I'm also just kind of like, yeah. So I do take out the cruiser. I have to, because if I don't, then the Phoenix Squadron A-Wing dies next turn. He ramps again, and it's just bad, right? I am going to be taking in some big damage here. You're going to see I'm up to 6 damage. I just play the Fleet Lieutenant. It's all I have from my hand. And now we're like, it feels bad because it is bad, right? That's one of the main reasons why, like, maybe I should have, you know, maybe I should have kept the Cassian there and played out the Cassian there and had the Fleet Lieutenant and the resources. But I did think that I was going to be able to maybe flip out the Poe, Fleet Lieutenant, hit in for a total of 8 with the Falcon, which would have been really strong, and then maybe swing in for another 3, but it just was not meant to be, right? He goes ahead and he plays the resupply carrier for 4. Again, super strong there. And you just see how many resources he has. I take out his unit there because I'm going to try to stop as much damage as possible. Corona comes out for 1. Then the Corona comes out for 1 again, and he swings 2. Probably should have used Piett. I should have probably used Poe with ECl to kill Piett, but I do have the Wrecker in hand, so I did want to kind of save it for potentially more damage. But I don't have anything to stop that space threat right now, right? He has 2 Coronas out there and a 4 attack power unit out there, right? So he's dealing 10 damage into base. It's just too much to kind of deal with the Poe deck early, like at this stage, right? And I can't outrace him here because he has 10 uncontested damage in space. I'm not drawing those my Sentinel, right? Bright Hope would be perfect here. I do just have to go ahead and take out the Piett. I'll deal the 4 damage into the base. And then, yeah. About a 3 damage into the base. So, I put up the 6. Now it's just a sad time. He does go with the overall Mirage. He's able to take out the Poe with the resupply carrier. And now I have to take the initiative, and boom, he hits me for 6. And then he hits me for 12. All right, so that puts me to 18. And there's really nothing I can do at this point, right? He's going to Bazine just to see what I have in my hand. And I have some good stuff in hand, but he gets rid of the K2. And, you know, I can go ahead, I can swing into the Bazine, but it does not matter because he just swings with everything in space. And then it's just over. So you kind of saw maybe prioritizing killing the Poe there, using Poe ECl to take out the Piett. But that being said, he still had the 3 resources to still play out the other Corona anyway. So it didn't matter if I did take out the Piett. He just had, again, being able to just puke out Coronas when he's on the board, getting that ramp early. That guy, he was upset about his opening start because he did have a very unfortunate start with the ground pilot unit. But again, the cruiser off of Triple Dark Raid was massive. Being able to take out my Falcon there, and then also get the ramp off the resource, it's just really solid. So you kind of see what you want to do here. You want to ramp, you want to use Triple Dark Raid with Piett out to kind of try to make some massive value plays. And again, it's just a really fun deck. It might be really viable. I do think that red Piett is scary. I think that blue Piett could also be scary. But this being able to use sneak attack and Triple Dark Raid to cheat out capital ships even earlier makes it a really big threat, at least against certain aggro decks, I feel, right? So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys are new here, make sure you hit that sub button down below. If you like the list, check down the description below. You can go ahead and take it out from there. Again, it is a shell, so you can go ahead and make your changes. Let me know what you think. Let me know what changes you would make in the deck, right? Again, if you guys haven't done so yet, check out Maclunky's channels, right? We have Twitch and YouTube down below. They have some really good content when it comes to the competitive scene for Star Wars, the PQ scene. They do a really good job streaming that stuff. Make sure you hit that sub button for them and follow their Twitch to watch it live when these events are going on. With that being said, we're going to go on and get out of here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.